Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. We got our first snow of the season over the past weekend, so that was actually quite delightful. It's almost gone now. Snow doesn't stay here very long, but it's winter time and that's good. We're thinking about wintry things. And today we are going to do one of the cold storage recipes from Making and Using Master Mixes from Utah State University Extension Office. And I'm really liking this booklet. I've jumped back and forth between the two. I really like both of them. And this one is called Chicken Mix and Chicken Broth. And I do broth my own way, of course, and I bottle it, pressure can it. And chicken chunks, usually we just get a rotisserie chicken from Costco and I chop it up and store it in the little baggies in the freezer for our level 1 food storage. But today we're going to do both of them together. So in this big pot, and this is my water bath canning, steam canning pot, I have, it calls for 12 to 14 chicken breasts. So I have 13 in here, and they range in size from large to small, and they are frozen. And so this is going to take a little bit more time for them to cook than is called for on the recipe. So we're just going to proceed with the recipe, even though these are frozen, and just give them a little bit of extra time to cook. So the idea here is that we are going to cook these breasts until they are soft, nice, done, and then we're going to give them some time to cool, and then I'm going to chunk them. Meanwhile, we're going to strain the broth that is left in here. Now, this broth has not been simmered for 10 hours the way some people really like to do their broth, and I usually simmer mine. I use bones and all of the leftovers of chicken. You've seen me do that in several videos with both turkeys and chicken, but we're going to do it their way today. I'm going to try this recipe. It looks okay to me. And I think, if anything, the broth is going to be on the bland side, which is just fine because I can always season it up when I use it. Now, it calls for these, once we are finished with packaging them, to go into the freezer. And that's great. That is a perfect place to store it. And we can store the broth in plastic bags in the freezer. I've done that before. I may elect to can it in some pints. And so I think what we need to realize is that, yeah, it's their suggestion, but we need to do what is right for us. And so this is also a recipe that you can add your own spices and your own flavorings right here, but I'm going to follow their recipe. But since we're not going to be canning this, and it would not be a tested recipe, you can add whatever other flavorings and accompaniments that you might want to cook this chicken and also to do the broth. So here we go. The first thing that we're going to do is add 1 gallon of water. And I'll show that to you. All right, so I'm going to manipulate these around just a little bit so we've got better coverage. There we go. And as always, my hands are very clean. I always wash my hands right before we do a video. I always sanitize my countertop too, just right before. And then it calls for 4 carrots to be washed, peeled, and diced. And as you may see, I'm using my Vidalia Chop Wizard, which thing I just absolutely love. I'll put the link for this under the video description in case you haven't seen this, in case you want to check it out. But these are chopped carrots, and aren't they beautiful? They're going right in. I should have discovered this ages ago. Many of you already have. Okay. And then it calls for 3 tablespoons of parsley flakes right here. And Jim, we need to add parsley to our shopping list next time.
We need to remember to add it.
We need to remember to add it. That is very true. And then it calls for 4 teaspoons of salt, which is a tablespoon and a teaspoon. And half a teaspoon of pepper. And then 2 teaspoons of basil. Different seasonings than I usually use, so we're on an adventure here. I'm just going to give it a quick stir. It's hard to stir, the breaths aren't moving, but I'm trying to wiggle the water around a little bit so the spices get distributed evenly. Okay, now this is going on the stove, and we will see you when the chicken is done and cooled. Well, it has been several hours. Our chicken breasts were done in under 2 hours, about 1 hour and 45 minutes. I checked the temperature with my instant read thermometer to make sure they were all above 165 or above slightly, and then we turned them off. As you can see, on the breast, there's a lot of the parsley flakes still embedded. And while that doesn't bother me, I'm going to package them with that. If that might bother you, you might want to consider putting the parsley, I think it was 2 tablespoons of parsley, in a spice bag that you could just drop in the water and so that the flavor disseminates, but the flakes themselves do not. But it's entirely up to you. Or you could even use fresh parsley and just put sprigs of fresh parsley in, and they wouldn't come detached from the stem. So a couple of things that you could do, but this doesn't bother me. So what I've been doing here is the chicken was cooled, and I'm chunking it, and I'm measuring it out in 95 grams, which is about 1.5 cups. Now, our instructions say to package it in 1 pint. 1 pint of chicken chunks is generally too much for us in the various recipes that we use chicken chunks for. So at this point in time, you can package it how you wish. And so I'm doing it in 1.5 cups allotments, and we're putting them in these little bags right here. Now, this part of it with the chunks could be done with an edge sealer. I'm using our chamber vacuum sealer, but our Weston edge sealer would have worked just fine for this part as well. But since I've decided I am going to do our broth also frozen, that's why I'm going to do the chamber sealer, because the chamber can handle liquids. Now, if you don't have a chamber, that's just fine. You can put it in a Ziploc bag and freeze them flat, however you wish, or a freezer container of some kind, and they can go in the freezer. Or you could even can this broth if that's what you might prefer. But we're going to go forward. So I have right here 95 grams, and it is going to go in this little bag. And yes, I put my hand all the way down to pop out the corners. And then I just drop the chicken in a little at a time. At this point in time, I want to make sure that they get over into the corners, because trying to get them into the corners after all of the chicken is in here is a little difficult. And we need every little bit of space that we can get. Okay. And then I'm going to tamp it down so that we have plenty of room on the top. And the funnel keeps the inside clean so that we can have a good seal. So now I just take it over here, and I'm slipping it under this little clamp, and then pushing the clamp down in place, making sure it will go all the way across. And then we're just going to vacuum seal. Ooh, just barely made it. It slipped a little bit, and so the seal goes all the way across there, but it's nice and firm, so we made it. I don't know what happened there, but we can put this one now with its two other friends, and we have 3. Now, the recipe says that we will get 6 pints. We're going to be close. And I may save one back and make a nice chicken salad for our supper tonight. So that's one thing that I would be using these chicken chunks for. So I'm going to continue doing this until we get everything chunked that we're going to, and all of these little packages. These are so great because they're going to fit right inside our bins. We have our freezer organization done according to a certain size bins, and these will fit perfectly with those. Folding this down, and then the lid on the bin will fit right on the top, and these will be great. And with the vacuum sealing, now none of my other chicken chunks out there are vacuum sealed. They're just frozen. But these are vacuum sealed, and so they're compressed a little bit, which is going to be a little bit space saving, so that's another advantage as well. So we'll continue here, and then we'll bring you back when we are ready to do the broth. And by the way, the broth tastes just great. It doesn't taste like my usual broth, but it has an excellent taste. So I was very pleased about that as well. So we will see you here shortly. Well, we have 5 packages plus a half of a chicken breast that would not have made a full package. So I'm going to use that one in a salad for tonight. And then we have 6 pints here, and we have a full 7th one ready to go. So we'll do the last one, and I'll show you how we do the liquids here. And again, I put the funnel in here only because I want to keep the upper inch of this completely dry and free of any oil in particular. So in this goes. And we came out to the drop on this last pint. So we had exactly 7 pints of broth. Okay, now moving over here. So you have to be careful with liquids because you don't want the liquid to run up and get the top wet again. So it's going under the clamp, and the clamp is going down. And equalize the clamp, put it in the middle. Okay. This is the heating element that will seal it. Now, what is going to happen as you watch this, the bag will puff up as the vacuum chamber becomes a vacuum chamber. All of the atmospheric pressure will be removed from the chamber, and it will be a complete vacuum inside the bag and outside the bag. And then at the very end, after it seals the bag, then we'll have a countdown over here, and when that countdown gets to 2, and I'll call that out for your attention, then through the little opening right here in this corner, atmospheric pressure returns to the chamber, pushes down on the bag, and that is what makes the vacuum. So here we go. Jim turned some lights off to reduce the glare. So see, the bag is puffing. You'll see some bubbling. Okay, now it is sealing and counting quickly down to 7. When this now gets to 2, you'll hear psh, and the atmospheric pressure just returned, the lid popped up, and we're ready to take it out. And here we have it, perfectly sealed. It's a double seal. So what we will do now is lay these flat and put them on a baking sheet, and we will freeze them flat. And then when they get out to the freezer, they will stand up in a bin, and the lid will not be able to fit on the bin with these, but we should be able to fit all of these like files in a box, and that way we'll save a little bit of space. So we're not specifically going to be showing you one of the recipes, although their recipe for chicken a la king looks really good. And so we may be trying that at some point. But you don't have to use these 1 pack of this and 1 pack of this in connection with one another. You're now free to use these in your freezer for whatever recipes that you like. So our little booklet calls this a master mix. It's the very same thing as batch cooking. We did a big batch of chicken, and from that big batch we have yielded 5 packets that will be used in various recipes of ours, and these will be frozen, and 7 pints of broth that we will also use. So it's lovely to have this much chicken broth preserved then, and all of this is in our level 1 storage. So this was fairly painless to do. It took several hours, but most of those hours we were doing something else while the chicken was doing its thing, either cooking or cooling or whatever. So it's a very easy thing to do, and it gives us such a feeling of security to have some extra ingredients in our level 1 food storage so that we can be prepared. So thank you so much for joining us. Let us know what you think about this. Let us know if you've done this recipe and what some of the recipes are that you are using. So we will see you again very soon for more videos.